Good evening, good morning, YouTube. Salutations, wherever you're at. So I got a bit of a book haul here, which I haven't done one in a couple weeks. So I don't buy a ton of books, but I do buy books. So I just had some stuff here I've accumulated, and somebody said there was a book haul battle. So I thought I'd throw my hat in the ring. A new challenger steps forth. Anyway, that's Traumatic Tomes. I thought it was funny when he said that. So I'll tag him. Go check him out. His channel's very good. So he's a pretty funny guy. Anyway, so I'll show these because I'm gonna start including these in my book hauls. These are my latest editions of medieval. This is Medieval World now. It used to be called Medieval Warfare, and I did like it a little more when it was Medieval Warfare, but I still really enjoy this. And I actually collect back issues. I don't do a lot of book collecting, like going out and finding like rare books. I don't do that at all, actually. But I do try to collect back issues of Medieval Warfare and Ancient Warfare because I love these magazines a bunch. There's a really great article, and I haven't had a chance to read this yet, but a really great article about Edward III in here that looks really interesting. And Edward III was the king during the Cressy campaign, during the 100 Years' War. But there's another one about, cuisine at the time and what they I just love stuff like this. So it just is so fascinating. Like, yeah, see dining at court. But the page before that has the article about Edward III. So I don't know. I think this stuff has real literary merit. That's just me. I really like it. I think there's a lot of great stuff in here, and I actually reference these a lot. So if I ever get to finish in my historical fiction novel, a lot of the stuff I get is going to come out of that. And then these are the 3 issues of Ancient Warfare I got recently. I'm just behind this many, so this is I did start reading this. I'm almost done with it. This has a lot of great stuff about ancient China and Japan. I just love stuff like that. I actually want to read more Asian literature and Asian history this year, so yeah, I got a couple of them in here. I'll probably have to do another book haul soon because I did order some other stuff, but I want to show this really great map they had in here. There was another one, but I guess I can show this one too. Maybe I'll take a picture of it and show it closer, but this is during the Three Kingdom era of the Han Dynasty. Look at that. They just put great historical maps in these. I just love stuff. I love maps. It's a problem. It really is. I own too many maps. Historical, modern maps, just maps. Any maps. I love maps. So, anyway, of course, then I said I don't really do collectible books, but I went to a bookstore I hadn't been to in a while, and unfortunately it's not really a used bookstore the way it used to be. It kind of is, but they've really gone a lot more towards collectibles in the last year or two, which is unfortunate. But I did find this there, and this has a Frank Frazetta cover, so I picked it up. This is The Mucker by Edgar Rice Burroughs. This is a historical fiction novel, and I'm pretty sure it takes place in Mexico. I've never read this, but I will read it. I believe it takes place in Mexico. Yeah, it says it's during the middle of must have been some kind of Mexican Revolution. But anyway, so I will check that out. And then I found this at a different bookstore that I went to recently, but check these out. I did not need to buy these. So there's, like I said, there's only a handful of things of like, I don't really collect like hard to find books or anything. But anything in the Sharp series from Bernard Cornwell, I will go out and I will buy it. But check out these covers. I have never seen these before, and I've been reading the Sharp series for a long time. I don't ever recall seeing these TV show covers before, and I just thought that was really cool. And then I thought I had another one, but this has a painting cover on it. So if I find the painting covers or the photograph covers of the Bernard Cornwell Sharp novels, I will pick those up, especially the photograph ones because those are really nostalgic for me. Those are the ones I had as a very young adult, reading them at my grandma's house, laying in bed with it. When I used to read books like that, which I can't even do anymore. I couldn't even do that if I tried. I just can't read like that anymore. But I would be laying flat on my back reading them, with up in the air like that. My arms would just get tired now. I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm getting old. I don't know. Anyway, so this is the Duke of Wellington, and this is a lot of his like correspondences and military orders during the time of the Napoleonic era. And I just love stuff like this, especially anything Napoleonic era. Like, that's my favorite era of history to learn about, and everything kind of adjacent to it too. So that includes like the American Revolution and 7 Years' War, and basically all the stuff that takes place right around that time. And it's just there's some great maps in here. Sorry, I've almost froze up looking at some maps. Oh, it's fantastic. Oh, great map of Spain. I'll show that real quick since I found that quickly. See if you guys can see that. Sorry if you can't see it, but anyway, I probably won't read this cover to cover. It's not huge. It's only 300. It's like 370 pages. And I don't know how good of a writer the Duke of Wellington was, but I know I've read excerpts out of this before, and I remember liking it. So, because that book, I know that stuff's referenced a lot for Napoleonic era stuff. So, this book I picked up recently. I actually started reading this already. This is The Longships by Franz G. Bangston, who is a Swedish author. I'm fairly certain. He's definitely Scandinavian. I want to say Swedish. I might be wrong about that. I'm going off memory. This takes place during the Viking Age and kind of late in the Viking Age too. So is it Harald Hardrada? That's the king of Norway at the time. I might be wrong about that. The point is it's at the time when kind of Denmark and Norway are sort of united, or at least early on. And it's sort of in that era, and there's a lot of and they actually, they're just a Viking crew, and they actually go to Spain during the time of the Reconquista. I think it's before the Reconquista starts, but it's while the Muslims have control over most of Spain. So it's really interesting. I suppose the Reconquista is such a long. If you don't know much about the Reconquista, it lasted a very long time, and really it didn't end until basically the Spanish were already coming to the Americas. Because Andalusia was held by the Muslims for a very long period of time. To this day, they have, their culture is a little bit different from the rest of Spain. There's still people there who speak, Arabic. So anyway, this is a really good book. Like I said, I've read about the first 150 pages, but I'm reading like 5 different books right now. So on top of I read periodicals. So I stopped this because I'm doing a buddy read that I've really been enjoying, but I'm going to get back to it and I'm going to finish it because this was fantastic. I ate those 150 pages up. I'm serious. I read that in like a day. I'm a decently fast reader. I'm not an ultra fast reader. Oh, so I said I want to read more Asian literature this year. So this is The Romance of the Three Kingdoms. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that name. I'll say it wrong. This is an abridged version, I think, of only the first volume, too, because this thing is massive, The Romance of the Three Kingdoms. But I at least want to read this, if not the entire thing. But I thought this looked really interesting. It's a Penguin classic, so, I'll often pick up books just because they're Penguin classics. But I think, I do really want to read this. I also picked up The Water Margin, which is written by another author. But a lot of people claim that the last portion of that book was written by this same author, and I want to read both those books this year because I just want to read more Asian literature and more Asian history because it's just really interesting to me. And I've always liked Middle East and like Russian history and Near East history. Like I've always liked that stuff. I just never got as much into China and Japan and stuff, but I have been recently. So, I picked this. I actually got this at the same bookstore that I got those sharp novels at. This is The Persian Boy by Mary Renault. I've never really read any of her work before, but this is a very well-known work of historical fiction. And as a person who loves the genre, I feel like this is an important book for me to read. So I'm going to get to it sometime. If you don't know what this book is about, it's about Alexander the Great, basically, but it's told from the perspective of the Persian boy who, my understanding, so a romantic relationship with Alexander, which sounds really interesting. So I'm looking forward to reading this. I've heard it's very well researched. I know she wrote a nonfiction book about Alexander the Great too. Maybe I'll read that sometime. It's not as easy to come by though. I picked this up recently. This is Lord of Samarkand by Robert E. Howard. So this is Robert E. Howard's historical fiction work. I already read the title, the namesake title story. I read it this morning. I read it this morning actually. It was excellent. It was very good. He does change some historical facts, but he kind of like brushes it under the rug with some dialogue that kind of fixes that. So, it's pretty well done, pretty clever. But this is really good. This is part of my buddy read with Kiev-Vlaslav, if you've been following the channel. So anyway, we're going to be reading out of this. If anyone's interested, they can join in. A lot of that stuff's public domain, so it's really easy to get. So if you've been watching the channel recently, I picked these up. I actually showed the Swords of the East in another video. This is Swords of the Desert right here. I bought Swords of the West digitally, and then this is Wolf of the Steppes right here. So all these are by Harold Lamb. These are Harold Lamb short stories. If you don't know who Harold Lamb is, He was an author in the early 1900s. He wrote a bunch of historical fiction, but he also wrote a lot of nonfiction. He's actually a little bit, I guess it's been sort of changing in recent times, but he was, at that time, he was more well known for his nonfiction that he would do later in his career. But prior to him doing that nonfiction work, he worked in pulp magazines and wrote historical fiction, which is just fascinating to think about because historical fiction is not a genre that gets a lot of short stories. And he was pretty well known at the time, and he's Robert E. Howard has been there's stuff saying how Harold Lamb is one of his favorite authors, and since I've been reading these two side by side, it's incredibly obvious that Robert E. Howard liked Harold Lamb, and that's not a bad thing. Like that's just the way it works. So these are really, this one is in particular is really interesting to me. This was at the time, this was Harold Lamb's most well known short story series. So this is a series. There's like one main character whose name is Kilt, I believe is how it's pronounced, and I'm not saying that right. And if I say it the other way, they might take my video down. But so it follows the character Kilt the Cossack. Cossacks are like an ethnic group in like the southern Russian steppe, and so he's part of that. He's part of that culture, and it just seems fascinating to me. I'd never see historical fiction almost never take place in this part of the world. I know Con Ingledon wrote a Genghis Khan series that's very good. It's my favorite Con Ingledon work. I liked his Rome as Julius Caesar one, and then I like Falcon of Sparta. But other than that, Con Ingledon writes some duds sometimes. But I can't help but think that he was influenced by this because, like I said, it's so rare for people to write historical fiction set in that part of the world. So these are just really fascinating to me. As you can see, he's obviously on a horse. That's kind of part of horses are a big deal in their culture. And I'm really looking forward to reading that. I'm almost done with Swords of the West, too. And then I'm kind of interested in the Swords of the East. This has almost a full-length novel in here. So you get a lot of value for this because this is almost 500 pages. There's like a 200-page novella in here on top of, and there's two novellas inside that Swords of the West, too, which is like 700 and something pages. And then Swords of the Desert, I haven't read any out of yet, but it looks really good, and I'm going to read all of those. So I read a lot of short stories. I'm just for my own. I think short stories are good for creativity, so I read quite a few of them. But anyway, so I picked this up. I really like these Library of America volumes. I want to buy some more of them. I was going to buy the Bruce Canton one, but I own the 3-volume set, so why would I buy the Library of America edition? But anyway. This is John Williams, who I've sometimes seen it as John W. Williams, but they just went with his first and last name on this. This is his collected works, not all of his stuff, because he actually wrote 4 novels, but John Williams just owned the first one he wrote, which is something by night. I can't remember what it's called now, but I've read all four of his novels. My personal favorite John Williams novel is Butcher's Crossing, and I read Butcher's Crossing years and years ago, before the New York Book Reviews. I actually own the New York Book Reviews copies of these two. But anyway, I read a copy, and maybe it's because I've been in the Midwest, so I came across it maybe a little bit easier than other people, but someone at the library suggested Butcher's Crossing to me back in like 2012. And it's one of my favorite books ever. I think Butcher's Crossing is brilliant. I know everybody loves Stoner. Stoner is a fantastic book too. I've read Stoner probably 4 or 5 times in my life now, so maybe not that many, maybe like 3. I've definitely read it at least 3 times because I can recall it from memory. So I said I want to read more Asian literature this year. So I actually read Musashi last year, and it was one of my favorite reads last year. Musashi is an excellent book. If you haven't read Musashi, you should. Musashi the book, which is by this same author. I think it's Eiji Yoshikawa. So he wrote this as well. This is Taiko. Musashi is about a famous Japanese swordsman who also wrote some important works in Japanese literature about being a swordsman, but it has like some internal wisdom in it. The book that this author wrote about Musashi is kind of like, I want to say it's like a fictional biography. It's very good. It has like a love story in it, but there's a lot of sword fighting and stuff in it. It reminds me a lot of the Three Musketeers for some reason, but there's differences. They're not the same. Because there's not quite that, you don't quite follow a cast like that, but it's just I guess maybe it's the traveling, but it just reminds me a lot of the Three Musketeers. And of course, the Three Musketeers is one of my 5 favorite books of all time. So anyway, but I discovered Three Musketeers years ago. So And this will be, oh, let me talk about this book. I'm sorry. So Taiko, so if you've ever read Shogun, this Taiko, so Shogun is a fictional account of the events in this book. So in Shogun, written by James Clavell, he changes the names and changes some other stuff about it. And it's just a straight up historical fiction, just loosely based on those events. This is a little more of an accurate take, although this is historical fiction as well, and a pretty well known book at that. And it's about the Shogun, really the return of the Shogun era in Japan, because at the time when there was the new Shogun, there hadn't been Shoguns in quite a while, which is just like a military leader. The way the Japanese system works at this time, at least, is a little unusual. So the Shogun's basically a warlord, and he rules in the name of the emperor. So you can kind of think of him as like the main general of Japan. If you want to think of it as like, what would be? I'm trying to think of a good comparison. Think of like Rome, if they already had a king at the time that Julius Caesar became the great general, and he would just do it in the stead of the of the king. So basically he's like a military commander, but he's also like functionally de facto running the country. So anyway, I'm really looking forward to that. Like I said, I want to read some more Asian literature this year and Asian history. So this is Dacia, the Roman War. So this is actually published by the same company that publishes Ancient Warfare and Medieval Warfare or Medieval World. And so they release some editions like these, as you can see. This isn't a massive book. It's about 200 pages, but this is really high quality paper. And it's like magazine stock paper. So like, maybe, I don't know if you can hear that on camera. And it's it's got like that glossy feel to it. So it feels a little heavy, even though it's only 200 pages. And obviously it's large print, but it's like magazine size. But this is just fantastic. It's a little on the expensive side, but I think it's worth it because you get a lot of great photography in here. See, it shows I'll try to show this. It shows a battle scene in Dacia. So Dacia was a Roman province at the time during the Roman Empire, and this book is just all about that, all about Dacia. This shows like archaeological stuff. Oh, look at this! Look at this drawing right here of Rome. That is phenomenal. That is just excellent. And they just show great diagrams and stuff, weaponry. There's great art in here, and I have an appreciation for art. Because I thought about posting my short stories on YouTube before, but I'd probably be better off putting my art on YouTube, to be honest. But I'll show this real quick. Because my short stories aren't very good. My art is passable. So, oh, here's a great map. I know people don't probably love maps as much as I do, but I am obsessed with them. So I just love maps. I cannot help it. Oh, see, I saw something else cool here. But anyway, I just think this is really cool, and they make quite a few of these sometimes. I just ordered a couple more because like I said, I want to do more Asian history this year. They had two set during the Sengoku period of Japan, so I picked those two up as soon as I saw them. Another one about the Hussites out of Poland. I think the Hussites are Polish, unless they're East German. Maybe they're East German, but they're like a heavy cavalry is what it is, or like lancers. And so they had a whole book like this dedicated to them. But they got quite a few interesting ones. They had another one based on the Ancient Warfare one, not because those two are medieval warfare. Those two I just. I'll do another haul and I'll show those to you. The two Sengoku period Japanese history books like this, and then the Hussite one. And then they had another one that was an Ancient Warfare one that I was thinking about picking up too. But like I said, they're a little on the pricey side. I don't buy a lot of books, but I will buy stuff like these. I don't know who their intended audience is for this, because this looks like something you would get in school. So, but it's too advanced for high school. So I don't know. Maybe it's designed for the college level, or maybe advanced. Oh, this is fantastic. I'm sorry. I cannot wait to read this. So as part of Historathon, and I won't put this because I don't have too many nonfiction books here, so I won't put this in the Historathon tag. But I don't know how much more ancient history I'm going to read for the first quarter, but I'll definitely read this. And then they had another. There was another book. There's a Attila the Hun book I was thinking about reading, because that kind of covers steppe culture a little bit. Obviously they were you know, in Europe at the time, that Attila the Hun was. But I found an Attila the Hun biography I was thinking about reading. It was that. I had a couple ancient history ones I was thinking about doing, but then I have a big Empire of the Steppes book I'm thinking about reading by Kenneth Harrell, and it just covers a whole bunch of the. It's a huge book though, so I was thinking about saving it for March of the Mammoths. So, but it covers a whole bunch of steppe empires in it. So that includes Attila the Hun, but you know, Genghis Khan and all of his descendants. That also includes Timur. But anyway, so it's a bunch of, you know, it talks about the Russians a lot and the Cossacks. So anyway, yep, that's all for you guys. So part of the BookTube Haul Wars. Yeah. Sorry, it's kind of hard to say those words together. Anyway, that's all for today, YouTube. Have a good day wherever you're at.